Welcome back, my students, to another episode of Comic Class. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be taking a look at Todd McFarlane's Spawn. And I decided I'm going to be reviewing the entire Spawn series. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be covering every issue or just every storyline. I haven't decided yet, but today we're going to be taking a look at the first storyline in the series that covers issues 1 through 4 of Spawn. And that's the question storyline. And without further ado, guys, let's jump right into this series. Let's go. So guys, the series pretty much starts off with us looking at the planet Earth and hearing the voice of Spawn, or I guess you could say reading the voice of Spawn, basically telling us the backstory. And basically we learned that Spawn was a guy called Al Simmons that actually was part of the military. He was like an assassin for hire, and eventually he actually was so good at his job that he actually got betrayed by one of his closest friends and was killed on the job by him. And so basically Spawn basically makes a deal with their version of the devil, or at least one type of devil, and gives him the ability to come back to life, but as a hell spawn. This is where we get revealed to Spawn in his full outfit / costume. And it's a really cool panel showing off Spawn's design. And so after this we get introduced to two main characters in the series, named Sam Burke and Twitch Williams. And Sam and Twitch apparently were so popular back in the day that they actually got their own spin-off series, which I think is pretty cool. And I definitely can see why, because they are interesting characters and they play off each other really well and have really good comedic moments. But basically what we get to see in this first scene with these characters is that there's a type of crime going on where this guy or monster is actually taking crime bosses / crime people's hearts basically from their body. And basically this guy that they're investigating on basically had his heart taken out and put in his mouth. So it's pretty brutal stuff. So after this we get to see that Spawn basically is traveling through the city and he finds a person about to get mugged, a woman. And basically he drops down and takes on this group of thugs basically and gets to showcase some of his super strength that he has. And after he saves the woman and basically tells her that she doesn't need to be afraid, Al Simmons basically has a flashback showing us more of what happened, and that his wife Wanda was at his funeral, and he kind of remembers seeing all this, I guess, from hell. And so after this we get introduced to another main character in the Spawn franchise named the Violator. Now the Violator has the appearance of a fat clown, but he also has a type of alter ego that we will see his true form, you can say. And so basically the Violator basically sees Spawn up on a church cross thing and basically tries to get his attention, but Spawn kind of just ignores him. And but they'll have their interaction later on. Now the Violator basically shows off his true identity, which is like this type of bug monster, and he basically rips the heart out of multiple crime bosses or crime criminals. And we get this really cool splash panel or splash page of the Violator's true form, and probably the most iconic villain design that Todd McFarlane ever made. And so you get to see that Spawn is trying to realize his new powers and what he can do with this body, and basically tries to recreate how he looked back then, but turns out that he turns to this blonde white dude whenever Al Simmons was actually a black guy. So it's a really cool scene, as it shows how tormented he is because the guy that gave him his powers basically just messing with them. Now Sam and Twitch basically are still investigating what's exactly happening with the crime criminals and trying to figure out what exactly is taking their hearts. And we'll get back to that later. Now the Violator is going from block to block, basically, it seems, just taking out all these crime criminals' hearts, and it's really brutal. Now we get to see that the Spawn basically is still having flashbacks to what exactly happened, and we get to see this little timer that tells us how much energy or powers that Spawn actually has left. So I'm guessing that'll become more important later on in the story. And yeah, eventually Spawn arrives where the Violator's at and basically has a conversation with them, with the Violator basically telling him that he's here to actually help him out, and that he's actually like his guardian sent from Malebolgia, which is like their version of the devil, or at least some type of a devil character. So basically Spawn isn't having any of it and just leaving the Violator, to his mission basically. Violator doesn't take this very well and transforms, but doesn't show himself off to Spawn, basically just saying for him to have a heart. We'll see them, face off, duke it out later on in the story. Now we get to see that Sam Burke and Twitch Williams are basically still on the case, trying to figure it out. They're getting closer to figuring out what exactly is going on with this monster. The chief police, basically, which we haven't seen yet, basically is giving Sam a hard time for kind of like pursuing this case. And we'll definitely see more of his, relationship with his boss in the next issue after the Question storyline, which I'm probably going to be covering in the next video. But yeah, so you can see that Spawn basically meets like a meeting with one of the crime bosses and basically tells him to, kind of live a better life. He's like giving him a warning, which I really enjoyed this scene because it shows that Spawn isn't trying to just like murder people. He's really trying to be a better man, and basically tells him not to mess with people anymore or his wife because he has it good. That Spawn wishes he had what he had. So kind of treat it, good. And it was a really cool scene to see him be nice to this dude, despite the dude being a real piece of work. Now we just see that Spawn basically uses his power to make himself look like a white man, basically, and goes and meets his wife, Wanda, who actually turns out to actually be married to Al Simmons' best friend now, as this takes place 5 years after Al Simmons' death when he was actually brought back to life. So life has kind of moved on, and Wanda actually has a kid with his friend Terry. So Al Simmons basically doesn't tell her exactly what's going on and decides that it's probably best for both of them if he just goes on and continues to be the Spawn without her figuring it out. And yeah, it's a pretty sad moment. Now, Spawn's pretty mad that he got screwed over by Malebolgia, and basically kind of sees a Violator. His Violator shows up to him and basically tells him that he needs to join him and needs to do the job that Malebolgia basically brought him back to life for. Now, this is where Spawn basically gets revealed to the real form of the Violator, and him and the Violator basically start a battle. Now, the Violator takes Spawn's heart out of his body and basically tells him that there's no way he can survive without a heart. This is where Spawn basically tells the Violator that he doesn't need his heart because he's a Hell Spawn now. And basically their battle begins, and Spawn uses one of his plasma blasts to kind of like take out the stomach of the Violator, or some type of organ from the Violator. Now, the Violator basically tells Spawn that he's not the only one who doesn't need organs to live, and basically they continue to smash each other into buildings, attack each other, try to mutilate each other, and this is basically happening. The Spawn and Violator's arms both getting chopped off. This is where Malebolgia makes his appearance, basically tells the Violator that he needs to stop attacking Spawn and sending for Spawn. Basically reveals the backstory to us on what exactly happened, that Spawn actually made a deal with Malebolgia that he were to be revived in exchange for seeing his wife again. Of course, Malebolgia screwed him over and giving his wife the ability to get with someone else because he brought Al Simmons back 5 years in the future from his death. But overall, he did bring him back to life, and he tells him that he needs to do the plan that Malebolgia had sent him for, which is to kill people, to send them to Hell, to build up the army of Hell, to take on their version of Heaven in the Spawn universe. And yeah, so it's basically a battle of Hell and Heaven, which is like the end game for Malebolgia to try to take over Heaven, I'm guessing. So yeah, it's a really cool plot line. Now we just see that the Violator basically gets punished by Malebolgia and having to stay crippled, and also that he's not able to change into his real form and be, the Violator. He's basically just the fat clown now. And it's a pretty funny scene, just seeing him complain about how Spawn got his arm regenerated by Malebolgia, but he kind of got screwed over. I mean, he has both arms in his regular form, so I'm not sure if he did get regenerated or not, but he's just being punished and staying in his clown form. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Now, Spawn basically leaves the Violator to do what he needs to do, and he gets an outfit, a disguise, to kind of like hide himself, hide his skin, that way people don't freak out. And these kids basically run up to him supposedly, and it turns out that he was freaking out for nothing, that they were actually looking at the Savage Dragon on the TV that was in front of him or behind him. I can't remember if it was behind or in front. But basically, yeah, so Spawn was kind of freaked out for a moment, but he kind of leaves that area. And the story pretty much ends with Wanda having a dream of Al Simmons basically calling out to her, basically wanting her to help him. And I'm guessing it's going to become more relevant in some future issues / stories. And yeah, so I'm going to keep this in the back of my mind that they're probably going to reconnect in the future. But that's it, guys. That's it for the Question storyline, which, like I said, covers issues 1 through 4 of Spawn. And yeah, for a first storyline, it was really good. It introduced us to the character Spawn, introduced us to the characters Sam Burke and Twitch Williams, to Malebolgia, and to the Violator, as well as Wanda, Terry, and Wanda's kid as well. And yeah, so we got all of our main cast pretty much in the first 4 issues, and I can't wait to see what other characters come in the next few issues of the story. And I can't wait to go through this whole, series with you guys. At least the Tom McFarlane bits, because I believe the 200s of the issues is like some other writer, so I'm probably not going to be covering that. But I'm going to have to research that and see what I need to cover on the channel. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be covering every issue of Spawn that is by Todd McFarlane, because some of them feel like filler issues that I've read so far. So I'm not sure about that, or if I'm just going to be covering storylines. But the next video I'm going to be dropping is on issue 5, and then after that we're going to be doing the Overkill storyline, which is about 2 issues long, called Payback Part 1 and Part 2. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. That covers issues 6 and 7. And it just overall, it looks like it's going to be a good ride. So if you're a fan of Spawn, guys, be sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be dropping a ton of Spawn videos in the next few weeks or months, however long it takes to cover the entire Spawn series to issue 300, at least the Tom McFarlane parts. And yeah, until next time, guys, God bless you, and until the next lesson, keep on reading.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity, so I could see how you react.